Oh,
this
let's
period
go ahead and walk through
in the
this.
history of the
If this
United
happens,
States,
we all
relatively
prosper.
speaking. In other words, relatively.
Here I am talking about this very basic thing, and I'm not gonna talk through all of this, but I'm just going to scroll through it, and you'll have to pause. Okay? He says not true and doesn't talk about anything. He talks about Donald Trump. This guy, Tony, he's a fuckface. I don't know Tony. I try to break it down. Where our money comes from, where our budget is for the military. And then, Tony, tell me where my ignorance is. This guy is such a Trump dick sucker, so, whatever. Here we go. All of government funding. All right, so this was 2 hours ago, and he hadn't responded, so I decided just to walk down this path. So, all right, and this is all me being a fucking douchebag. Because it's all fucking sarcastic. I'm knowingly walking down this path, knowing that this person is a fucking idiot and can't think of anything other than the very simple thing that's going on, and I'm going to make sure that I round out to that, right? So, all right, so I explain here that what worked in 1913 when the U.S. didn't export goods, when we were we were at our most prosperous time, as Trump talked about earlier, before World War I, before the military-industrial complex. Yes, so it worked. So now, because economies are exactly the same, we don't export goods, because. So I started walking down here. At the same time, we abolished this, right? So if you make $1,000, you'll make $925 as an employee or $850 as a contractor. This is based on still having Medicare and Social Security that is taken out. All right, so that seems amazing. Extra amount of money. Sounds too good to be true. Oh, God, I'm such a dick. All right, so we've got Canada and Mexico. And then I walked down the route of being a CEO of Chevy and selling a Silverado that cost $36,000. And I talk about how, in a very conservative view, 30% or whatever is coming from Mexico, 36%. 37% is from U.S. and Canada. I just completely ignore that. The 27% that is undisclosed, right? I give a source here of where this information is coming from. So we ignore Canada and United States. Let's just say 50% of the vehicle is parts. 35% of that cost is from Mexico. So now we have a $1,600 rise in the cost. So isn't 25% across the board, but as the Chevy CEO, I'm not about to lose the profit margin because that would fuck my stock price. So I pass that along to the consumer. All right, so here I go, just kind of sneaking common sense in there. The very common sense of, if you raise minimum wage, they will just pass that down to you. If you think a burger is going to cost $5, you raise minimum wage, it's going to cost $6. It's just fucking stupid math. All right. So let's move on to normal American purchases. What are we doing here? Electronics, portion of our food, clothes. Let's talk about wanting to buy a house, right? So all of this shit is imported from China, Mexico, and Canada. Not all of it, but $13 billion. So a 25% tax on that would add an extra $3.25 billion to the cost of those goods. And I provided a source for this. And then now we go back to simple math. I'm going to edit this. Simple math. because, it's all obnoxious and they aren't reading it. 25% extra cost on our everyday goods. God damn. I can't write. I guess that's what happens when you hate responding. Is much cheaper. Yeah, so 24% extra cost on our everyday goods is much cheaper than 50% of the taxes that government takes out. So based on the simple math, I do see how we will be prosperous, and I understand why people think we will be better off. Thanks for allowing me to think out loud and work through that. I really see the advantage of taxing all imports so that corporations can pass that on to us. In the long run, it will be much cheaper.
This period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had
It's
one
all
function:
nonsense.
what
It's all
to do with
fucking
all the
nonsense.
money that we
People are brain
took in.
dead.
It was